Fecht Fest was amazing. This is my first time working it, but it always to me seems like an excuse to play around with what's outside the usual normal scene of Kearney, Nebraska. But it's also local stuff, like at least to the region. It's not stuff that's too far away, but it's always stuff that, at least in the normal day-to-day, seems too far away to the normal scene.
And I think like the furthest guys were Colorado, right?
Yeah, some of the band members of some of the bands that were based closer were like from Texas and Tennessee and Missouri.
We had some Wichita.
Yeah.
It's like 3 Kansas bands, right? Something like that.
Yeah, but they were all based out of Kansas.
Yeah, which is like right here. I mean, that's
Yeah.
like that's like going to Dallas. I mean, if you're talking Texas.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I mean, I was surprised at the style of music, like you were saying, because especially with Matt saying, you know, it's turned to more of a blues bar and stuff like that. I didn't know what to expect. And I sure as hell was not expecting death metal, black metal, any of that adjacent alt versions of those things. None of it. But, I mean, there's a few times, Ben, I saw you, like, just standing down there, just eyes wide open.
Well, this was a very full circle thing for me. You know, I've never been to a metal festival before. I think the last hard rock concert that I went to was Bad Wolves, Five Finger Death Punch, and Breaking Benjamin, which was awesome, don't get me wrong. But this really brought everything full circle for me, from like friend recommendations and music I've been shown that I haven't been able to explore live. And really, I think when you look at me on stage and when you look at me in the crowd, I'm not a very animated person all the time. A lot of the time I just kind of have a dead stare, but this time it was a deep, dead stare with emotion. I mean, I was really, really into these bands. Stony Doom hit me really hard. I think if I had to pick a favorite, it would be Forged in Fire for me. But just what a show.
Stony Doom was so good, especially since I grew up listening to my dad play Pink Floyd and Black Sabbath and Rainbow and stuff like that.
It's funny, too. Psychedelic music from the 60s and 70s and stoner doom metal have the most in common.
Since Vietnam.
And, of course, your biggest tether to that, Sabbath.
Yep.
Everything, more or less, in metal the way that we know it, started right there with Black Sabbath's Black Sabbath. And just as you keep working through that discography, you will hear things that you've heard before in more modern times, but what you're hearing is the original, more or less the original popular riff that folks heard that record and built off of that. And, you know, the art of art is the art of stealing. Who cares? But if you're looking for that music that will move you like the 60s and 70s, but it's metal, like aesthetic, Stoner Doom. Just definitely. I've seen Cliff wearing a, Electric Wizard shirt?
Yeah.
Dude. Electric Wizard, Dope Throne, Bongzilla, stuff like that. I mean, Stony Doom, like, that's fucking, I was so surprised by all the different shit I saw there, because I think the only heavy band I saw there, besides like Crazy Horses or Slant Piece, which are the local heroes, cover band, and then originals, respectively. The only out-of-state band I ever saw here that was super fucking heavy was Hemlock. Ooh. And that was like hardcore punk.
People from here still talk about Hemlock.
Yeah, and if you go to Walmart, it's like they put the stickers on the stop signs. Stop and listen to Hemlock. But yeah, I never saw them again. I don't know if it was like a shit turnout or what, but I don't know. Was there anything of note that you guys went through when you guys were helping James out?
Mostly just some of the band's reaction to, hey, we're here to help you move your shit, and they're just like, oh my god, thank you. Just I've been ignored by all the employees of all the other venues that I've been to this whole, last tour I've been on, and now we have a monitor and people to actually help us move our shit. Holy crap, thank you. And even it was a, hey, don't put your stuff there, we're gonna be moving in this way and out that way. They were like, oh, bet if that makes y'all's work better, then we'll do that.
Like,
and,
oh shit, there's a flow here? Oh, yeah, awesome.
The accommodation and the understanding and the exact opposite of that when it came to us trying to help them. It was just the gratefulness just was really wholesome coming from a guy head to toe in spandex with face paint, you know. Just probably one of the most, not antagonizing, but just like one of the people you probably wouldn't approach in a subway.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't want to sit next to him. But just like the most genuine, oh my god, thank you so much. Just the most
blackout
genuine
face
humanity
paint.
with the charcoal all over the body.
Yeah.
Well, and it's great because they were already talking about people giving them weird looks, you know, and
Oh yeah.
places as they were on their way. So
Yeah.
just great to see that other side of them.
See, what was cool is what was the band you were talking to? Is Waking the Sleeper.
Waking the Sleeper was awesome.
Dude, their guitarist, or one of their guitarists, the guy with the jet black long hair, he's walking around with just this not to be f***ed with face, and he's got like the face paint over his eyes, like the
MGMT.
Predators,
Oh.
the Native American Predator movie
Yeah.
with the Apache. He's got the Apache face paint. That's what it
Yeah.
is. And I just walked up to him. I was like 6 IPAs in, dude, and I just went.
He looks very native too. So
Oh, he was native for
yeah.
sure. And I walked up to him and I was like, "Hey," and I extended my hand. I was like, "You are like the most imposing looking son of a bitch in this building." And he looked at me like,
Respect.
well, no, he looked at me at first like, "Are you insulting me?" And he leaned in like, "Let me hear you say that again." I went, "You look imposing as fuck. Like you look great. Like you look really, really intimidating. I've seen you walking around." And it's just like, I can't tell if you're about to stab somebody or you're about to give me a show of my life. And this was before they went on, and he just like, the most crisp, solid handshake, gave me a hug and shit. And then like we ended up catching up with everybody outside after the show, but I could tell that he was like meeting everybody's eyes with like, are they giving me a weird look?
Yeah, and the early crowd is very, you know, just the people getting sandwiches and I'll see the beginning of the show and see how it goes.
It's always hard
And
to
some of them are there all night, but most of them aren't. And you know, by the time the late night crowd shows up, they're all like, "Oh, see that guy with face paint? That's a cool motherfucker." Like the whole vibe of the bar changes at a certain time. And I really dig that because I think I've gotten that notion of, oh, I walk around town and I get looks from the posh people, the beautiful people around town. And then you come to the bar and everybody's just like, "Hey, motherfucker, what are you up to? You gonna rock my socks off?"
So Ben, was Fecht Fest your first metal fest overall? Like one where it's like, this is totally metal, not just like a few guys here and there.
Yeah, you know, it wasn't just like a hard rock. This was some real metal. I've made some good friends here in Kearney that have showed me a ton of, from like death metal to black metal to stoner metal, all sorts of stuff, doom metal, and it's really a trip. It's a trip I don't take very often, but it has been, I don't know if enlightening is the right word. It has been awesome though, for sure.
Because definitely at Fecht Fest, there was almost every kind of metal you could think of. I think black metal was the only one that didn't make a full appearance.
Yeah, but all
it
the
was-
bands had some kind of sprinkle of some kind of metal.
I mean, the show on day one, because I was able to work all of day one for James, was crazy. I mean, I've been lucky enough to see Wasted Witch in practice.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing them take it to the stage after I was just some dude on the couch hanging out was amazing. I've never seen Gravekey. And seeing Gravekey was amazing.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, like, Viper Witch was interesting for me because when I saw him get up there with all the makeup and stuff, I was like, okay, now you got to make that mean something because it's like, if we're walking up there wearing, you know, some cosplay stuff, it's going to be kind of something.
Yeah.
They pull up the banner. They get up on the vocals. All right, here's the story. Here's the lore. We're dropping in the world. Here's what's going on. Midnight Rider running from this. They're not going to catch him. Let's go. And then the vocals hit on top of that, double bass on top of that. No longer am I looking at people cosplaying. I am here. I am in what you are giving us here. And there was, Beast Eagle.
Yeah, I felt like there was a couple bands that were more gimmicky, but like even the one that I said was female Pearl Jam, it was rocking, and it was like I said, female Pearl Jam, but like it just had that vibe. It distinguished itself more than what I would describe it as. But if you were there and you said female Pearl Jam, that's what it felt like. It felt like Seattle Pearl Jam live, but with a female vocalist
And I was
just
gonna,
hitting that shit.
and I was gonna say, especially out of like the grunge pack out of Seattle, a lot of people sleep on Pearl Jam for one thing, especially the live show, because Eddie Vedder, that dude would climb the rafters of the stage and just hang off with no support, no wire, nothing, and he'd just sit like that and do pull-ups on the thing, hanging 30 feet down to the stage beneath him. He fell, he was dead, and just scream his face. Like, I don't know if anybody listening to this, like, go look up Eddie Vedder and just anything Pearl Jam does live, even the MTV Unplugged stuff. Look at his face, the way he contorts his lips and like makes his eyes. Like, dude is crazy on top of that more jammy, less sludgy, like Nirvana type music. And that's why I see where you're coming from.
And it felt cleaner than Seattle grunge, but it definitely had that I'm at a Pearl Jam concert kind of energy.
But, I mean, Ben, you got to talking to Waking the Sleeper a whole lot. Was there anything like, I don't know, like of commonality or exactly what you expected the road to be like?
It was very impressive talking to their drummer, Chris. I think, Waylon, you and I talked to Chris probably the most out of anyone. And it was just exciting, to be able to say, hey, man, I was a jazz drummer. And for him to go, I was also of jazz roots. That was great. And the bass player was excited about gear. And you guys know how excited about musical gear I am. And he was excited that I was excited about his gear. Raven was just super cool. I think it was really welcoming. Waking the Sleeper was probably one of the most welcoming bands for me. As someone who, in the Kearney music scene, already feels like an outsider for really no reason, because everyone's been really, really good to me. It was just nice to hear from bands that maybe at face value you wouldn't expect to be the outsiders and to be, kind of like that. Just for them to be like, yeah, man, it's all right to be yourself. And I was like, wow.
I feel like that's all rock in general, but also especially punk and metal is we're all outsiders, and that's kind of the insinuated value of the equation is it's kind of unsung because we all get together because of that anyway.
Yeah.
It's like Fight Club.
I mean, it really is. Like, it's funny because people on the outside will call it the metal community. People on the inside call it the metal family. And it truly is worldwide. Like, when you throw Dukes at somebody in public, if you've never seen them in your life and they just fit that aesthetic, like, chances are, let's just say shit went down right now. That's the person you want to be with, because they are probably exactly who they appear to be. Because they are comfortable.
They don't have no cultural filter.
Exactly. There's no filter or any kind of a skin over them. They're either comfortable being who they are or comfortably uncomfortable being uncomfortable.
Unless they're a metalhead to fit in, solely, then they're not fitting into a social structure or how will this person look at me. They're fitting into their own aesthetic.
The way I always think about metalheads in general is, again, if you are stuck in any kind of a situation, a riot, a shootout, whatever, something that is akin to a mosh pit, chaos in every direction, and imagine you fell. It is the metalhead that is going to pick you up.
Because they've been in a pit before. They've willingly been in a situation where bodies are moving and you're going to get clashed and someone's going to eventually fall, and everybody knows that you better pick that guy up or something's going to happen.
Exactly. If you stay down, you will be absolutely trampled. It's like get up because you cannot afford not to.
Yeah, you see it more in the city when it comes
whatever
to
that means to you,
the whole like seeing what the metalhead community is, but the whole meme of the crowd picking up the wheelchair, you definitely see that more in the city, but even in a place like Omaha where there's kind of a big population, but it gets bigger when Tool comes to town or Rage Against the Machine comes to town.
I was going to say, because the story you're talking about, I want to say it was Slayer, but I know where it was. It was at Wacken, which is Wacken, Wacken Open Air Fest in France. And there was a guy in a motorized wheelchair, which means incredibly heavy. And, he can't see anything with all these people standing above him. And they see and notice this. And this guy, he has, like, muscular dystrophy. Like, his arms are unmovable. He can't do anything really. And they look at his parents and they're like, cool, cool. And a whole bunch of people pick up this entire mechanized wheelchair. And they're holding the whole chair with the man in it above their heads. And this man is able to move his arms and go
Devil horns.
like that. And he is crying in this chair because he can see everything.
The sea of the crowd.
And I'll never, because, mother worked with mentally challenged folks. When I showed her that picture and I said, this is the kind of shows I go to. Because I challenge you to find someone at any other kind of show that's going to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Period. Just period. But to your point is like, these people are very supportive. There is no concept, I think, in the metal community of an outsider. That's why for me, I'm always like, get the fuck over here, get to the show, show up. I don't care who you think you are. I don't care who you were told you were, like any of that shit. Because that's the community. They're actually people. At least, especially the performers, It was the metal performers who taught me, without anybody saying anything, just treat these people like normal people. Come up and say, hey man, great job, it's fucking awesome. That'll make their life. Don't lord over them. Like, don't do all that. They're just people. And that's where the best conversations are.
Another thing, helping the bands load up into their trucks, and they're just kind of expecting, hey man, get out of our alley, we need to use this, come on, hurry it up. And the most I did was, do you need help? Would you like a water? And most of them were like, nah, man, we don't need a water. And they're like sweating beads and just like, let me get you a water. Yeah, I could use a water.
I think definitely I'm the most guilty of the three of us of the misconception that the punk rockers and the metalheads are too hardcore. And the tame example I'll use is local recording artist, engineer. I want to do him as much justice as possible. Morgan Rezak began working with me. I work at the music store here in town. And one day I went downstairs to talk to Paul Honish about, hey, I'm looking at this amp. We had a Fender Blues Deluxe, which is a crazy, crazy tube amp. And Morgan goes, I'm going to buy that amp before you, and I'm going to smash it. And I went, oh, so you think because you're in two punk rock bands that you can just smash whatever you want? And it was a total crack at him. It was a total joke. But, I always did kind of think that the punk rockers and the metalheads are a little too hardcore. It's not that I didn't think they were people, but I just thought, oh, no way I could ever approach that guy. And here I am at Fecht Fest feeling more alive and more welcomed than I felt probably anywhere.
The cool thing about that kind of art, it challenges you. The way they look, the way they sound, the way they carry themselves. I told you that story about how I bought Johannes a beer before he had makeup on, and it was just a tall, scared-looking dude. And then when he had his makeup on and his face is on, his fucking 80-inch tongue is sticking out of his face like Gene Simmons, and he looks at me and he's just like, and I'm like, oh my God. Because it was like two different people. And yeah, I don't know. It's especially old punk, old metal, like the folks we consider like double our age. So like, let's just round up to like we're all 30, The folks who are like 60, when they were kids, bro, you walked in a club wearing platform shoes and bell bottoms to a punk club, yeah, consider that shoved up your ass. I'm serious, because they'd beat the shit out of you. I'm not even kidding. Like, the day that disco died was because a rock and punk and metal DJ, I think it was Boston. Yeah, Fenway Park, I think.
Yeah.
And he basically told everybody, hey, bring every disco record you can find. And people went to record stores to buy disco records to burn them in the center of the field as a show of force to any disco lover. And my parents, who were disco people, considered that the day that it was all over. Because these, violent hooligans, these people who wanted you to step off and be either like them or get out, is how it felt. Maybe it was.
I mean, politically, that's kind of the stance.
And maybe something changed. And that's why I always am trying to encourage folks, especially because, it's up to us now, right? Us and people, maybe 20 years max older than us. most of the folks on stage, no matter how scary they look or how scary they sound, they're more like us than what we idealize punk or metal or alternative or hip hop and these things to be. Like Tech Nine has this air of like a gangster who will like stick a 9 in your fucking mouth and blow your head off. Aaron Yates, who is the same person, one of the nicest people in the damn world. Super nice, he's like a shack, you know. But that's that interesting thing is people eat up the facade. So you need that whole act. But back in the day, I think that people couldn't differentiate the act from themselves. So that hard exterior became who they were. Like Iggy Pop, when he used to fuck with the interviewers and shit.
Oh my God.
Like, what I'm trying to get at is like, you're right. I mean, and you're right in the sense of they are. And I remember when I was younger, I mean, yeah, 22, 23, 24, just being like, dude, I can't be here. You know, it's like, I shouldn't. And then it's like when you're on the way out the door, some dude wearing corpse paint and torn jeans and scary looking contacts goes, bro, where you going? Well, I guess I'm staying here. You know, and it's like all of a sudden, you know, and then you're part of this family all of a sudden. These weird looking and you're there. You know, you might be the normal dude wearing a button up shirt and jeans, but you're accepted. Like, it does not matter. I don't know. I'm glad that you had that experience though. Like it opened up like a little door for you. Because honestly, man, I feel like once you get your face melted off, there's just something that you wear on you that the rest of the metal bands you'll ever see, you're like, oh yeah, this guy's seasoned. He knows what he's talking about.
To be honest, I didn't expect everything to come so full circle from all the recommendations and all the stuff I've been shown and told about. So I was just there blindly, you know, just going with the flow with the music. So not only was I impressed, but I mean, I just didn't really have any more expectation than what I got. It just really fulfilled me in a way that I did not expect at all.
Hell yeah.
So what you're saying is Fecht knows how to pick them.
Yeah. It was feckin' awesome, man.
Yeah, it was. Yes, it was.
I had no idea, actually, that this was for James's birthday. I was more than happy to work it. At first, something had come up the week before, and I was like, oh, you know, hey, everyone, sorry, I'm not going to make it. I made it. I thought, from what I had understood from other people, that this was like maybe some form of like a fundraiser, and then James gives to charity or something like that. And it, in a way, it kind of is, because he's giving back to the bands. I mean, unless you approach James about his merch, he's not making it about himself at all. This is all about the bands. He is more than thankful for the other side and for the Toasted Goat and for Matt Epp and for the members of the bands, for all the stage hands, everyone. It was just, this was awesome. I had no idea what I was signing up for, and I had no idea what the purpose was, but
yeah,
to
it's
me,
local music for local music's sake. All the
Yeah.
bands get to keep their own money from their merch tables. All the money that Fecht makes from his own merch table goes into the next Fecht Fest. So,
And that's the thing too, is there's so many concert organizers who say that. They say that's what this is, you know. But this is like the only guy I've ever seen in 3 states who actually does it. He hardly pockets anything unless, like you said, he sold it for himself. But then again, it goes right into the next thing. The guy spends all year mowing lawns, doing odd jobs to make the thing happen. I mean, it's for the music and nothing else. And also, like, the people that show up there for this specific event, there are faces that I haven't seen in 5 years. The people that seem to only show up for this, for him, or for his repertoire that he is able to bring each and every time. And what that is again, it's a trust in a person to help grow the scene without taking advantage of any of it at all.
it's a seal of approval, like how Donkey says. Like, you get to know a reviewer, or, you know, in this case, someone that's a event organizer. You get to know what that person is like and what their taste is. And there's definitely people around this town that, I don't listen to live music unless it's got that Fecht seal of approval. They've been to Fecht Fest at least once, you know. Or, like, that's how they end up finding new local bands, is there's a headliner that was at Fecht Fest, and they wouldn't have gone unless they remembered that band from Fecht Fest. and then all of a sudden they have 3 new bands that opened for that band that they like now, and the only reason they went is because of Fecht.
You know, and I wonder if that's also something about this area too, and maybe they do, maybe they don't even know that might be it, is, you know, there's at least 2 people I can think of off the top of my head, maybe 3. Matt, Vic, and Fecht. If those 3 people, one of them, books something, it's good to go. Mm-hmm. Someone's going to pick it up. Someone's going to listen to it. Someone's buying merch. Someone's going to not stop talking about it. And not like in a shitty way, like just it has got them because they trust one or all 3 of those men.
It's a safe bet when it comes to the scene that we've cultivated.
Exactly.
Well, just today, our artist friend, Andy White, told us that when we were asking about Freight Train Rabbit Killer, the minute Matt was like, hey, you don't know who these guys are, Andy went straight to Buffalo Records and bought their vinyl.
Yep.
I mean, that just speaks volumes about the reach and the perspective that these people have on music, the way they can really move people.
And vice versa, the way we know Andy and the way he kind of surprises us with his outlook. We got to look at his record collection today, and there's a lot of stuff I knew, but there's a lot of stuff I never heard of. That's like, wow, I've never heard of this. Holy shit.
And it is that feedback together of not just the individuals, like, you know, trusting a guy like Matt or Fecht or Vic, but also having the type of people who are willing to go, you know what, I got $20, you know, or like Andy said, I got 30, and if I'm getting in already because of this tattoo, that money's going to bands.
Yep.
That money's going to the bar.
I have an obligation because I got in for free.
Yeah,
I have this in the scene.
Not cultivating folks who just go, yeah, I'll come through the door, I guess, but like I'm only getting like one shot. You know, no, I got money for merch, man, and like all those people everywhere. At least in the time that I've been here, and in the time since Ben, you have moved here, I have noticed more and more people who are here for the music and the musicians, and this scene is, again, whether it knows it or not, actively cultivating those types of people. And that is super important. And again, things like Fecht Fest, things like Pawn Stock and Pawn Stocktober, those are part of it. I mean, it's... Imagine, for just 1 second, gentlemen, imagine if we lived in Kearney, Nebraska, and there's no James Fecht. Imagine if we lived here and there's no Vic. That's 2 people out of that 3-man equation, and Matt would have to be doing it all by himself. Imagine if there was no Matt. Imagine if all 3 of those men were gone. Never happened, never here. Matt never left California, he stayed there. Vic stayed up in Holdrege, and so did James. They never moved here. And I move out here because my family's here, I drag you here, you come and move out here, and this was never here. There's no other side. It would be a completely, totally unfamiliar place.
This music scene changed my life. I remember my first Rock and Rod show, and I saw the Darts, and I could not believe, because I had lost music. In my life, I was done listening to music. I had just lost touch with the beat for a long time, and I heard the Darts. They were just happened to be the band I walked in during, right before they started, and it just touched me. The Kearney scene has been special. I mean, people like Vic, when I was trying to get my Pawn Stocktober tickets and I was freaking out they were all going to be gone, Vic offered to go out of his way when he's in Kearney to meet up and deliver the ticket to me. I have just never met people so gracious and so kind like I have in Kearney. And not all my experiences have been like that, but for the most part, it's been overwhelmingly positive, and it's had an overwhelmingly positive effect on me, especially when I'm in a very dark time in my life where I'm trying to grow. I've just had such a great support group that really isn't even trying to support me like that. It's working.
It's just who they are.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, I remember when I got here, I didn't know dick about shit. I didn't know anybody. Walk up in the other side, and I'm just like, oh, God, biker bar, oh, shit. You know, like, I had heard from people who didn't know shit, you know, on the highway creepers, it's like the banditos in San Antonio. It's like, bitch, you don't know nothing about banditos. But anyway, I'm up in this new bar the other side, and there's that tall man wearing overalls. And he looks real scary when he's looking at something else. And he looks over and he sees me looking at him, and I look away real fast, and I look back side-eye, and he's still looking at me and just goes, smile, big old closed mouth smile. And I'm just like, oh, fuck. You know, like, I did something bad. And he starts walking toward me. And I'm like, I'm about to go for the door. And he walks up and he goes, what's your name? Shakes my hand. I'm scared. I'm like, Tasia? And he's like, I'm Vic. Didn't sit there and go, yeah, no, I'm important. Nothing. Just, yeah, man. Awesome. And then I find out he does all these things.
Yeah, you'll find out he's important later.
Yeah. And it's like, that's that thing, is they don't wear it on their sleeve. Look at me. No, yeah, you want to be associated with this. They're just good people. You know? And I don't know. It's crazy. Like, and I wonder how many other stories about those guys are out there from people who will never see them again. You know, just a once-in-a-lifetime, fly-by-night dude passing through, family passing through. Maybe it's a sketchy bar to them, and they strike up this conversation with these individuals. I mean, in these specific ones, Matt, James, Vic. And I'm sure there's more. I know there's more promoters and organizers out there, but these guys, especially for the music we listen to, I mean, they're it.
Well, in a non-pretentious way, we are really living some people's dreams, being able to be this close to these people and to see them this frequently in multiple lights. We're not just seeing them in one way. We see them in all sorts of ways all the time.
And to that point, you could say that about a lot of people to their own music scene wherever, small town USA. Just, I wish I was a part of the scene. I wish I knew at least a couple of the musicians in town so they could say, hey, go to this show. Hey, have you heard of this band? They're really good. Broaden my horizons a little bit. When in all actuality, just go to your local bar, talk to the owner, just bullshit, and, you know.
My biggest thing is when you're going to do that kind of stuff, you know, and it's hard as a customer sometimes, is it is a business, you know. Mm-hmm. And it's like, if you come in with that respect, not just like this, like, yeah, I'm trying to get to know people, man. Like, no, you just come in, striking up a conversation, buying a beer, relax, chill, carry yourself.
Yeah.
You know, all of a sudden, them conversations start coming your way. People realize, you know, oh, he's not just here to, like, ride off of somebody else's back or coattails. You know, it's because, first of all, what I'm trying to get at is we have that respect. We have that respect for these people as both human beings and musicians, and also their jobs as organizers or whatever else they do. Specifically, like Matt as the owner of the venue, you know, just a definite, like, we know what his job is. We give them that respect. And it's not just yes, sir, no, sir. It's the way you don't talk badly about them in a public space. You don't sit there and like, you know, put them down as a joke. Like, none of that shit, because it's not just, oh, that guy could be between me and the place I want to be. It's because that dude's a good person. Why would you do that? You know, kind of thing. Where some kids, and we've seen them, I'm sure we all have. I don't even think we have names, but it's like folks walk up in that joint and they start talking to Matt like he's just some dude off the street.
Oh, yeah.
Because they also don't know and he doesn't say. Man, that thing about assuming, bro, you make an ass out of.
Yeah. But also, like, they may not even know he's the owner, or even if they do. I've seen some people come in and just be like, oh, I know everything about the music scene, and this is what you're f***ing up. And it's just like, bro, chill out.
The Fecht Fest stuff needs to happen. Someone needs to move the stuff. Bet, let's go ahead and do that. That'll be us. You know, and it's like, again, no disrespect towards anybody. How many other folks would sit there and go, yo, you know what? I have the time. I don't have the time. I'll make the time. I'll find that. Just like you did, Ben.
To the point of those bands, like, a lot of those band members were helping us move that stuff just because they weren't working their merch table and they were just there to see the other acts because they were there for Fecht Fest.
That's that beautiful thing about festivals, too, is, like, all that wall of, like, oh, other bands and all that shit. You either see that super apparent from some people or it just all dissipates.
Yeah, I feel like some scenes have that, like, high school football rivalry kind of thing. But it's so dumb. Like, you're both
San
local
Antonio.
music. Yeah, San Antonio's a lot like that. Even Austin is like that to a point. It's like the rap scene of, like, the East Coast, West Coast. Like, it's a way bigger version, but
The barrier of entry sucks.
yeah, and that's cool to provide competition, because competition's always friendly when it comes to marketing. Yeah. Even in music. But in your local scene, unless you're doing something like Cutthroat Kids and Bombs Blast, where they're faking it, and they're just like, ooh, look at us, you know, we're
We're fighting.
Yeah, we're better. Oh, no, we're better, haha. You know, but it's not hostile. It's not my fans are gonna kick the shit out of your fans kind of thing.
Because that shit can get really
Yeah.
real fast.
Oh, absolutely. And the
Really
groupthink
fast.
is real when you're in like a medium to small sized local scene. Around here, it's all very much, hey, you play shows, I play shows.
We're the same.
Monkey together strong.
Yeah. And because that's what I mean. That's the thing is like. Hold on. Let me try to not go off on a tangent here. Let me try to get my thoughts right. A music scene is a lot like a civilization.
Mm-hmm.
In the very beginning, it's chaos. People start making ideas. People start getting aesthetics, rules. Not rules, but like, hey, here's how we are. This is what we do. You know, shit like that. And it builds, and then you hit a golden age. And it's all incredible, and everything's great, and all the memories, and all the shit's happening. Everybody's doing coke in different corners and shit. No, it's a party all the time is what I'm trying to get at. It just feels like the party never ends.
And then it gets complacent.
We deserve this. We're entitled to this scene. The scene's always been this way, and it's going to be this way forever.
And it's not curated, and then it falls apart.
And that's what I'm getting at is I think, gentlemen, as the three of us sit here in this room talking about three other gentlemen who are out there doing it now. Not yesterday, not when they fucking, are ready and feel like it. They're doing it even if they're not ready. These people and the people that come after them, whether it's us or it's someone else, this is how you start a music scene. You have a healthy network of people. Buffalo Records, it's still a venue, but it's also a music and distribution outlet center for these folks' art, and it's local. The other side, Joe's Honky Tonk, I would consider that let's just put Heath and Matt in the same boat as like one person since Heath owns the building that the other side's in. And Joe's Honky Tonk is very good. I just don't go there enough to know. I know Ben does, though. But all these men, Vic and James also, whoever is looking at them, seeing their example and going, I need to fill that space. Or someone needs to fill that space because, hey, aren't we getting older? And so one day when these folks decide, hey, man, let's hang the jacket up, put the hat up for the last time, who's going to step up? We can't just rely on their kids. Maybe their kids have other dreams, things they want to do.
Move out of town.
Have their own life. We as the music scene community, this civilization that has been built for us and by us and people like us, which would be them, it's up to us. And that's, I think, the most important thing about having these conversations like this about these incredible shows is it's not just, hey, this happened. It's what do we do when it's the last one? How great we felt today and how great we're going to feel when it's Fecht Fest number 52, but it's maybe the last one. And maybe we're all 40, All right, bet. Who's going to pick that up? Because we will be the same age a lot of these gentlemen were when they started, I don't know. I think like we were saying earlier when we started this part of the segment here, it's very interesting that, yeah, we are these close to these folks and we get to see them do what they do this close up. Because, yeah, go to college, I go around town and hear so many people complain. There's nothing to do, nothing's going on. And it's like, who are you looking at? Where are you hanging out that nothing is happening? Because shit's happening fucking every day, every week, every month over here. I mean, damn, you can't even sit at the bar without some conversation about what's going to happen in the next 3 months,
Yeah.
Where are the rest of you people at? We're sitting here talking about businesses coming on and off the bricks and devising this whole network of artists, whether it's fine arts or music, Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
We have to care about the scene. I mean, look at the new Other Side page. For those who don't know, the Other Side's page a while back, fairly recently actually, Matt lost access to, and so there is a new Other Side page that is up. But I mean, they've got shows as far forward as January already posted. Mikey Strongman and the Dale Rods. That's phenomenal. How many places have that many shows scheduled in advance? I know.
How many local, small, owned by one person places
Yeah.
are scheduled that far into advance?
I know bigger local, I won't even just say Kearney, but bigger local places that don't post until the day of or the week of. I mean, That's just
Yeah.
terrible. You need to get the word out there so people come.
Yeah.
And that's where, I kind of begin to ask the question, Kearney, since everything is posted so early in advance, how come some of these turnouts are so low? I feel like that's a pretty decent question to ask, since everything is pretty much being done from the point of the venue, the people that work there who don't shut up about it, who continue to share everything. I hear a lot of excuses every time I walk around. It's just, oh, I didn't know. Oh, I just found out about a week ago. But if it was posted 6 months before. But then the same people turning, this music scene's dying. It's somebody else's fault. Is it? When's the last time you showed up to a show?
To quote my favorite rapper, at least my favorite rapper right now, people ain't doing enough.
Because when I say it's up to us, it's all of us. Because, you could sit there and have somebody working as hard as they can to build a city. If nobody shows up, what city? You can build the foundations of a civilization all day. If nobody builds a house, what is it? And that's the struggle I see is I hear an awful lot of complaining.
To that point, something that the crowd kind of really doesn't think about, or when they do, it's this very gimmicky, oh, the artist always does that. But it's really an important gauge on, at least if the artist is paying attention and doing it right, when they do, like, hello, Kearney, Nebraska, or, like, this town. That scream that comes afterwards, that's their gauge of how much this town likes them and whether or not they're going to come back.
Yeah.
And when it's 5 people in a bar and they're screaming their heads off, they want to come back. It doesn't matter if it's only 5 people. If every single person, including the bartender, is back there going, yeah, 5 more songs, they're going to want to come back. They're going to have a good attitude about that place, about that town, about that bar, about that state,
Simply showing up for the music you like, even if you're tired and damn near falling asleep at the back of the bar, being in the room, even again if you're just drunk as shit and all you can muster is it's something. It's noise in the room, it's a body in the room, it's breath, it's people. It's someone's there. Again, you don't have to be the flyest person in the room. We're not there for the women, we're not there for the dudes. And if you are, I might ask that you reprioritize, because you should be there for the music, and everything else comes with it.
The crowd feeds off the artist, and the artist feeds off the crowd, but also the individuals in the crowd feed off of each other.
Exactly.
If one dude's going hog wild and everybody else is like, man, this is pretty good, eventually by the end of that set, everybody's going to be going hog wild.
And that's like, I forgot what they call it, the single actor effect or something like that.
Yeah.
One person gets out there and dances, and suddenly everybody's on stage. All it takes when the band says to the crowd, "Hey, come up here," all it takes is one.
The first cheer in a silent room before the standing ovation.
Which is usually me. Try to be as loud and as first as possible. Sometimes Kirsten beats me, but that, because it is that loud reaction. I throw my voice, dude. I don't care, because some people think I sound like a chick when I do it. I don't give a damn. It's as loud as I can possibly be. Throw it across the room for someone who drove, 300 miles? Damn. 300 miles shoved up in a van while I'm sitting here in the air conditioning?
Another thing, the people that play at the bar 2 or 3 times a month, we have to beg them and peer pressure them to take off their shirts while they're playing. People in Fecht Fest, they come into town as, drifters. Shirt comes off as soon as they plug in, dude. Love it. Love the energy.
They weren't at Fecht Fest. Did you go to the Daikaiju show?
I did.
You
That
did?
kaiju was so good.
I'm a very antisocial crowd person. I don't like,
They set
I don't
their
like
whole
being
setup in the pit.
too involved. I was there with my friend Drew Hardage. He was Brandon Ulmer's drummer.
Yeah.
But he is, I think, now phasing out as he will be moving to Texas, unfortunately.
Yeah, very.
Go
Very
Drew.
unfortunate.
But
Yeah, go Drew. Sucks
Good luck.
Texas. I'm sorry about
But
that.
yeah, we were sitting there, and I was like, man,
Thoughts
should we
and
move
prayers.
into the pit? And Drew goes, I don't know, man. And we didn't. Lo and behold, we were moved into the pit.
It's just like that. That will forever. Daikaiju. I highly doubt you guys would ever hear this, but if you do, holy Jesus Christ, that was one of the best shows on 7 continents I've ever seen in my life, ever.
Absolutely.
Because that right there, that is that That is a nice abstract example of how I wish the music scene would go. If only every band could just play in the pit and people just naturally gravitated that way, and you blink and you or someone you know is holding an instrument in your hand, and now it's you. Just like
you have
that.
to make up the end of the song while the guitarist is taking a smoke and then coming back and going, "Thank you, Kearney," instead of "Hello, Kearney, Nebraska. Thanks for helping us in that song, Kearney, Nebraska."
Bro, and it was your homie Drew that like got thrown on drums, right?
Yes.
Okay. So he got thrown on drums. Cliff is given a stringed instrument, and I think Paul had the other one, the other guitar.
Paul was handed a guitar. It was some other musician I've seen play a show at Kearney who was just there to watch the show.
It was just
and
unreal.
they just handed him the guitar. Cliff was handed the bass, and yeah, they ended that song, and it was just droning dissonance, and they got a little funky with it. And they saw like the band coming back inside, so they like dun dun dun, and just like they did a resolve and finished it, and then it was just the most creative set I've ever seen.
No planning,
in Texas
no
and
scripts.
Nebraska.
Yeah, but I don't know, man. Like that to me was just that is the dreamlike example
With
of,
the
like,
lowest budget, too.
Yeah, but that is like the dreamlike example of what a music scene should feel like. Is, again, you are literally just handed the instrument not against your will, but like against your expectations.
Yeah.
And now it's you. And
Talk about being involved in the scene.
yeah, literally. And I mean, fuck.
I was handed a flaming Gibson.
It's just, fucking holding a goddamn drum on fire, like what? I don't know. And see, the reason I bring them up is because I'm sure they'll either end up on a Fecht Fest or they'll end up on something. We'll see them again somehow.
They were at Pawnstock. I wonder if they're coming to Pawnstock October.
I don't know if they're coming to Pawnstock October, but I think they're going to be at the 20th Pawnstock. By the way, shout out again to Vic Guerin and Pawnstock. Next year, for anybody who's listening to this, next year in 2025 is going to be the 20th anniversary of Pawnstock. But I will tell you this is, depending on who you are as a person, like Ben was saying earlier, some folks are just not into crowds. Some folks like crowds if the crowds are spread out. But here's what we're getting at here. Pawnstock references, obviously, Woodstock. If you don't know what that was like, I would look that up before you consider going to Pawnstock. Because, yes, that's all. 20th anniversary of Pawnstock. I think we're all going to try to make it. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and go, yo, we should shut down the Toasted Goat. It's like, I hope we have people to work there so we can go. Because I'm going, I'm sorry. I have to go. But I don't know. Like, I've only heard legends. And again, Fecht Fest, all of them, every one of them is going to go down as a legend. I mean, we are going to tell people about this, and all they're going to have is the painting in the mind that you gave them. And until they show up, they will have no idea. It's just any other show. No, it's not. No, it's not.
Well, here in a month, we're going to go to Pawnstock October anyway.
Shit, yeah.
I was talking about Vic delivering my ticket. I happened to be at his last El Jefe show and just bought one from him. And, I mean, there's some great bands coming back. I mean, that Freight Train Rabbit Killer is going to be there. Whiskey Dick's going to be there.
Ooh.
Oh, my gosh. We have so many. The Darts are going to play. I saw Tumbleweed at Paul Hanish's birthday. Tumbleweed's coming back. I mean, was that the clown? Yeah. And he had one of my favorite parlor guitars, the Gretsch Delta Lux magnetic pickup. Perfect. Just a straight acoustic sound.
I could spray paint Gretsch on a Strat and you would love it.
No, you couldn't. I hate Strats. I'm a Tele guy now.
Watch me.
I've changed. My life is different. I'm a country guy now.
Whatever.
Even somebody else. I don't know if he's too big or I don't know how that shit works. I don't know if he's too big to show up anymore. But somebody I'd love to see on a bill with like Hefe again. Coleman Hank Williams IV. That was something. Fuck else.
That was a wild show with the goddamn gallows.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Who played a Gretsch also, just to throw that in there.
I I don't know. I'm telling you, I fucking hate country music, dude. But it was Coleman Hank Williams IV that made me go, wait a minute, what is this Hank Williams dynasty shit? And I stopped at, I skipped over Junior because I hate him. And I went from 4 to 3 to 1. And then at that same time was getting into Fallout, like hardcore, and it just sent me all that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think if I had heard Coleman Williams in Texas, nothing would have happened. But because I heard Coleman Williams here, in what you could consider, Farmville, when I heard it here, it just made sense.
It might be the city boy in me, but I like Ass Jack the most.
Absolutely. I mean, like, if you're like death metal or punk, like, absolutely. But, I mean, like, knowing that Forth was the drummer for that band in its later years.
Yeah.
That's wild. But, yeah, if anybody's into death metal and you didn't know that Indonesia is, like, the pioneer of death metal right now, get to it. Because you might think to yourself, oh, Asian country in the middle of the ocean, and you would be correct. You would also be correct if you said largest Muslim population outside of the Middle East. But you would be incorrect if you said they didn't listen to metal.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be very incorrect. And they also are usually the people making all of the death metal and black metal album art. In fact, I believe your name is Agus, A-G-U-S. I can't pronounce your last name, my friend, but yeah, your name is Agus, and you did the art for Wasted Witch, and I've been talking to you on Facebook. I hope you're doing well, my friend. I hope you continue to do great things, and I hope you get all your art sold to people who will love it, enjoy it, and put it to good use. Because you are exactly the example of the kind of folks I'm talking about, is folks who sit in an area where all the instruments are produced, all the ones that we, because Ben's a salesman over at Yondis Music. So, of course, they will get those from those warehouses and these places, factories. And, then you got the markup price for the sale or the retail place. These kids, these people in Indonesia get it right off the factory line. And so sometimes when a place like Yondis might be selling, hey, the short-run guitar, 700 copies, we have copies, 200 and this and that to 315. I guarantee you a kid in Indonesia has 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And they just, because dad probably works there.
Mm-hmm.
And just went, hey, you wanted a purple guitar, son? And it's like an 8-string crazy brand I can't think of, damn Joe Satriani's signature, some stupid shit. And yeah, these kids just grow up with that the same way we'd find a mixer board in the trash and stuff. It's a crazy place. And again, it's all the music everywhere, whether it's metal or anything. I hope, in some way, shape, and form, whoever you are, if you happen to be a musician, make your way to Kearney, Nebraska. Do we have the best turnouts? Not yet. We're working on it. And it's stuff like this that's going to make it happen. But I'm telling you, no matter who you are, give it a shout. There's people out here looking for blues, rock, metal, country, death metal, electronic music, folk, anything and everything you got. It really is a place that I think would blow the mind of big city folks who think they already know what to expect. And it would also blow the mind of smaller town folks who think they have an idea of what to expect of a bigger city. Because it's not either of those things. It's right in the middle, and it's its own thing. It's a very interesting place to be.
I think that Fecht Fest was really cool because as someone that works at a local music shop, I happened to meet some of the incoming musicians, and so...
Like before they get on stage?
Yeah, I mean, specifically, like, Diabolical Orange Monkey was very, very, very fun to talk to. Their guitar player really opened my eyes to, like, digital modeling instead of, my tube analog setup that I've been using on stage.
Digital modeling.
So, talk a little bit about that. Like, explain it to a customer who's like, I know a little bit about music, man. Like, I mess with my gains, my knobs, and frequencies. Like, how would you explain it to somebody like that?
As someone who sets up his cabinet, turns on the switch, and lets his tubes heat up to create the sound, digital modeling is amazing in the way that it can replicate the sound of a tube amp and be direct to the PA. That
Okay.
is the craziest. So Fender recently released what's called the Tone Master Bassman. So in the late 50s, the Fender Bassman was huge. This was the powerhouse amp with adjustable wattage and all that stuff that could just blow the entire bar to smithereens without even
Jesus.
trying. And this Tone Master looks, feels, is a little bit lighter, but is set up with real potentiometers, just like a 59 Bassman, but it's all digital. And it sounds just like a Bassman. And this gentleman, who, for the love of me, I've forgotten his name, had this very tiny setup with an expression pedal, little screen, and a few switches. And he was like, dude, you've got a switch? It's so easy. My setups and teardowns are just so quick.
Okay.
And
And you
I
said-
found all my sounds.
And you said that was a guitarist of Diabolical Orange Monkey?
Diabolical Orange Monkey. That's right. And it was simple, it was easy, and he had all the sounds that he needed and wanted and more
Yeah.
in this little box.
See, you said modeling, and I thought of like physicality of the sound, but I guess that is kind of going the right direction because you're getting that physical sound of something out of a tube amp without the physical limitations of waiting
tube-
for it to heat up and all that other stuff direct into the PA.
Yeah. I mean, and you can play your tube amp, right out the gate. I do all the time, but generally within the first probably 10 to 20 minutes or sooner of your show, the tubes are probably already hot, and so you're getting a progressively better sound early on,
Yeah.
and you eventually kind of find it. I mean, I think really the only thing that interrupts your tone are things like, is my cable too long and I'm getting breakup, or my settings too high and it's cutting, things like that. I
Or
mean,
frequencies running into each other.
yeah, there's a lot of things that, can be solved by an onboard EQ or, just
Oh,
by
hell yeah.
lack of our own stupidity.
Yeah.
I mean, because I know
Yeah.
as someone...
User error.
What I heard when you said that was the lack of our ohm, measurements of fucking electricity through tubes. Our ohm stupidity.
Bill.
Not just
Consider the following.
Because when you were saying that you said it was the bass master and then the tone master.
It was the
older-
Fender Tone Master Bassman. So the
Bassman.
Tone Master is the model of Modeler, and then the Bassman was the original amp that it was copied from.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you were saying the newer one had less weight in it, right?
Yeah, so it weighs probably 10, 15, 20 pounds less than the original Bassman. So imagine lugging that 50-pound, this is a...
Because those tubes are glass.
I was just gonna
and
say, is it
metal,
because
yeah.
you're losing the tubes that the weight's
Yeah.
falling off
it's
like
the
that?
physicality of
Yeah, the physicality, there's a lot of weight reduction, I mean...
Okay.
because it's
from
all
what I
digital.
un-
It's all chips.
Well, and from what I understand, too, those older speakers were a lot heavier, too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's a
fucking
huge part of it.
Mm-hmm.
No, it just, so I'm in a band called Marion Gunn and the Wanted Ones, and our lead singer, guitar player, composer, Chuck, has a Fender Bassman. This thing sounded exact. I could not believe what I was hearing. And it was all Fender. It was a Fender through a Fender. It was a Tele through a Bassman, and it just...
Fender cord.
Shut
Yes. Yes,
Oh
it
my
was.
goodness.
It was this special edition Fender cord that has a kill switch
Ooh, in the cord.
by the quarter inch.
Oh.
Yeah. So while it's plugged in, you can just hit the switch there.
See, I never even thought about having a kill switch anywhere but the guitar or the foot pedal, or just the foot pedals. That's fucking.
So the brand this guy was using was Headrush. We sell Headrush. We have that same modeler on display. But I remember, so I gotta reference this because this will take me all the way back. Paul Honish plays a guitar called the Fender Meteora. I have a Fender Meteora. Paul Honish has the 2019 when they called it the Meteora, and it was a big deal. This is your chance as the consumer to not pay $3,000 and have your own Meteora. And I remember seeing that at the Ondas in Grand Island. And at the same day I saw that, I played it through what was called a Helix. So at the time, the Helix was this, I believe, touchscreen, huge board that you could cycle and see photos of what you were picking and choosing, and it would like lay out your pedals for you.
Oh, I think it had a digital rendition of all the
Yeah.
pedals.
You know what? You know where I heard that? Because you said Helix. Now, it just opened the door.
Yeah, line 6.
Yes, and Slackjaw.
Oh.
It was Soup on YouTube.
Yes.
His band. We were driving from somewhere, and he was
Omaha?
talking to McNasty about Helix was the one he used, and then they had met somebody on the road after the San Antonio show that was on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
And that guy showed him a completely different setup that was more modern digital, and it was the sound modeling, like you said, right? And because that's like you're constructing your waveforms and doing that. Okay, so yeah. And then showed him a more modern version. He's like, this, I'm getting that now.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, that's
It's just so convenient, is how I understand it. But I've really dialed it in. According to, I think, one of you guys, Tom, our sound guy, said that I have a pretty dialed in setup.
yeah.
Oh, yes,
With-
yeah.
Where my amp is, and how I pair what guitar to that amp. I mean, I've had the same. I copied Mark Schaefer's board. Mark Schaefer is the lead guitarist of Wasted Witch, who opened Fecht Fest Day 1. I pretty
They
much
did,
copied
didn't
his
they?
board, and it has just had all the pedals that I've ever needed. I have a total of 5 pedals, and I have my tube amp. And it's just been great. I just know exactly what I'm going to do with it. And so my fear with modeling is that I get too in over my head. Now I'm experimenting too much. I'm spending too much time playing around.
Whereas the tube amp would just kind of give you the sound for you.
Yeah, I come from a lot of like Boston, Cheap Trick, Kansas.
Yeah, and that's all
good
physical
stuff.
tubes.
Yeah, and so I've got a really, what I wouldn't say my sound is iconic. I mean, I've been told that after a show before,
But that's because you listen to good music.
yeah, I mean, I chose a Marshall on purpose. I chose a
Marshalls have
Fender
such
on
good,
purpose.
clean preamp sound. Like before you put pedals on them, like I
Yeah.
love Marshalls.
I mean, I have
That was my first amp.
Yeah, I mean, Marshalls are great, and I think you could probably attest to this. The Dirty Channel is better than a lot of overdrive pedals that are on the market.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you can kind of mess with it too. It's got at least the bigger Marshalls. They have the basic gain, and then they have like 2 tone knobs or something.
There's a lot you can do as you go up. I mean, my first amp was a 15-watt Black Star digital amp, and it was great. The presets were good, but it was a very quiet amp. Didn't have a lot of power. It didn't actually even have mids, so I couldn't adjust them. I only had bass, treble, gain, volume, and then my presets.
The OG.
Yeah, and so getting what I use is a Marshall DSL-5, and I use a full tone OCD overdrive pedal on top of that. So if I'm already on my Dirty Channel, my full tone is my second stage of drive and gain. I mean, I just get the nastiest noise out of it. I would never ever wish that kind of death upon anyone.
You gotta put it in drop A, dude.
I actually listened, speaking of low tunings, I listened to this crazy short on YouTube. This dude did Everlong in B.
Oh.
B,
whoa,
B
whoa.
standard, and it was awesome.
I want to hear that.
Maybe what would that be? Drop A? Is that what that would be? Yeah, right?
B standard, yeah.
B, so drop A? Yeah, and it was gorgeous. I could not. He was a good singer. He was a good player. That was all great, but the key really did it.
I really want to listen to some old Johnny Cash songs that the guitar is tuned as low as the voice is, instead of him being an octave lower than the chord.
Getting into low tunings, we played a show in Hazard, Nebraska a while back. I have a cover band with Stephen Kane from Personal Blues Revelation and John Grimm from Trymind. And the show did not go all that great, but my original intent was good. I brought a Schecter Telecaster that was tuned to D standard, but I'm a fool. I've never really known how to use a locking tuner. So I thought, well, I'm going to drop the E string now again. And so I thought, I have to unlock the tuner. I busted the whole lowest string. That fat boy just broke. And so I had to go back
I've never
to E.
used tuner lockers.
It was a rip, but what I can say is those low tunings so much more stable, I think, for a lot of people's vocals. E is hard to hit.
Yeah. Especially if you're using a thicker gauge string for those lower tunings.
Yeah.
It just seems...
And I was going to say, as someone who meddles around in vocals, I have, like, when I sing something when I'm listening to music, like when I'm in the kitchen, or like even like today when I wasn't screaming while we were driving and I was just projecting my voice, it's always lower than the way the song is actually recorded, because in my mind, for some stupid reason, I imagine everything to be in drop D and lower.
Yeah.
And so...
I'm the same way. I'll sing like a third below or a fifth below, or if it's really high up there, like if I'm listening to fucking Tiny Tim, I'll sing an octave lower.
You know, I feel similar to the vocals, too, about tuning my guitar. I'd pay a lot of money to have a lot of people set up different guitars in a tuning. I don't like to capo, because even though I can use relatively basic chords higher up on the fretboard and get that tuning I'm looking for,
Yeah, it's too
I would
bright.
rather, just bring it all the way down to where I need it to be. Because I
Welcome
think
to the metalhead community.
if I'm going for a somber tone, I'm sorry, I am not going to be capo 7
Yeah.
for my somber tone. I'm going to go all the way
Yeah,
down.
I
the
feel that
chain.
because you could capo up and it's a lot less work just slapping a capo on and playing a C chord to hit that C for your singer who's singing in the key of C.
Can you describe to people who don't know what that does, meaning me, what a capo does exactly?
It just pinches all the strings on the same fret higher up.
Is it like kind of making a bar chord, but it's a thing that does that?
A bar chord on all the same fret.
So it bars over one fret over
Yeah.
all 6 strings. And there are short capos. There's some people
Yeah.
that are skilled in the way of those alternate tunings that can use the like half capos.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, you're just taking
But that's
it.
very complicated.
Yeah, you can just change your key and use the same shapes that you've already been using.
Yeah.
So it is
play a
easier.
G chord on a capo 1 and it's a C chord because you've moved up in the scale. Even though it's a G shape. You're playing different notes.
Well, the first single I released on my own, I did some really like stretchy chords in D standard, and so the gentleman that helped me record the second guitar for me actually went ahead and just capoed up, however many it was.
This is the same chord but easier to make.
Yeah, and just played the
Yeah.
open chord, and for me it didn't kill it because I already had my dark chords in there, so it just kind of filled out the sound.
Yeah.
But
it was
just-
like background noise.
Capoing's weird. You know?
It's weird. But yeah, as a metalhead, it's just like, why don't I just detune the whole guitar?
Right.
And I have the whole neck to go up if I want to go higher in tune.
I've been noticing at work too, like Diodario makes strings in their XL line that are tailored to like C and D. So like D
Yeah.
standard, they recommend 11s, C, they recommend starting with like 12, 13s. And that checks out for me too, because even though I know you could probably do it with 10s, that
Yeah.
tension really helps keep your
Yeah,
stability.
it's because when you have those thinner gauges in those lower tunings, you get that noodly effect, and sometimes either the pickups can't pick up the full sound, or it's just too much and it clips the mic or whatever.
But it's hard too. I have my Telecaster that I gig has 10s on it. Sometimes, I mean, I'm used to it now from playing with 11s, 12s, 13s for a while, but sometimes I can't hit my bends. Sometimes I miss 9s, and so being in low tunings, I do a lot more slides and hammers than I
and that's where
probably normally
creativity
would.
comes in. Is you get like a new set of strings or a new lower tuning, and you get that experience of, ooh, this is different. How can I get the same effect through a different way? And sometimes that even turns into a whole different new thing.
Yeah.
And that's how a lot of techniques are born.
Techniques you can be all over the board with. They're just wild. And everyone's got their own style and sound, so it just gets crazier.
When I was in high school, I tried to make a song or a riff that was based off of me being in a lower tuning and taking that low E string and bending it up above the neck. And like that bing of it like stretching over the metal
Metal fret wire.
fret wire, yeah, and just coming up into the wood, that it would make a weird sound, and I was wondering if I could throw that in a transition between, two notes in a riff, because it just sounded weird.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Guitar is weird. But you know what else is weird? I feel like I've talked enough about myself today that I need to accredit my success. And I wouldn't say it's huge success, but the success I have had so far, I have to attribute to, well, a few people, but I think the big one currently is Cliff Nicolan. Cliff accidentally invited me into Marion Gun fully. He was only supposed to book me for one show, for an album release show. And so when I got into the group chat, Chuck goes, "Hey man, thanks for playing the show." And I go, "What show?" And that's kind of where it started. So had it not been for Cliff's accident, I don't think I ever would have got on that stage. And then it came to, I had supportive friends like, you guys, Tasia and Waylon, and I had Matt and Shelby backing me as a musician. I had Heath backing me as a musician. The people upstairs at Yonda's, Nathan and Sean, backing me as a musician. Hey, we're glad to see your support. We're glad to see you out there playing. I mean, it was just, this has been a wild ride in the music community, and I don't want to be famous. I don't think I'm better than anyone. I don't think I'm that good of a player or singer. I mean, I just happen to have some of the best teachers in the world. Paul Honish, blues guide for me.
Oh, yeah.
Musical guide for me.
No better.
I have never met a better friend and a cooler person than people like Vic and Paul and, just all these people. There's so many. You could go all day. I'm having a great time.
Even the nameless people that show up to the shows that, you see their faces because they show up so often. Not as often as every show that happens, but, every other show or somewhat. You see them all the time, and they're just like, "Hey, how's it going?" Good shit, I love it.
It's crazy to think that even when nobody shows up to a show, the regulars are always there.
Regulars are always there.
Always.
I love Cheers, dude.